Hey everybody, I'm Cinnamon Cooney, your Art Sherpa. I'm going to show you today how you can use the method of line and wash in watercolor to paint landscapes and technical architectural elements, not only easier, but with an incredible artful flair. It's beginner friendly in a way that I think usually surprises people. If you are looking for the traceable reference to use for this, it's on the website and it's in the event on Facebook, whether you're watching from Facebook or YouTube today. I want to welcome all of the new people. If you just wandered in and you thought, what is this lady going to do? I'm going to not show you how I can paint watercolors. I'm going to show you how you can paint watercolor. So that's the whole vibe of this. I'm going to teach you and show you how to paint. It's a little like a painting party, but I'm going to be showing you the techniques and the processes and the concepts, so you're actually learning art, kind of like a really, really, really fun art class. On the mic is my husband, John.
Hello.
He helps me with this mayhem by making sure that when I'm demonstrating a technique or talking about a product or talking about a color mix, that he is pointing one of our robotic cameras in it, at it, or close up into it, or spinning my head around, whatever it takes to keep the energy up and high in this place. Today we are going to be using a traceable, and the recommendation for this is that if you are advanced enough to use the reference and just loose sketch it in, I do recommend it. But if you're not there yet, because it's such a complicated structure, go ahead and take advantage of the traceable. It's not cheating, because what we're trying to do is learn the techniques. We're trying to learn the process and the idea. We're going to be working on sky. We're going to be doing these really cool clouds in the sky. We're going to be working on water reflection, stone, and stone texture. We're going to be working on line and wash and how that works. And you can, for your line and wash, use any waterproof black pen that you have. So the ones I recommend the Faber-Castell Pitt artist pen with the brush tip. That's what I recommend. That's very beginner friendly. If you are an acrylic artist and you just happen to have an Uniposca black around, this will work as well. I tested it. I was actually testing this recently. And so this is a glass dip pen and Blackmagic Higgins ink, and I found it to be really good. By the way, you can just grab a stick, a dry stick. It will also do this.
Pointy sticks work.
Man, I have used like skewers for the barbecue, all of that. So this is the glass pen. I'm going to be using a fairly large brush for watercolor. I meant to use a quill today, but I couldn't find my quill. So I'm going to be using the 3/4 inch oval. It's kind of like a wash brush. I'm going to be using the soft aqua number 14 round. And I may go ahead and get into the bright as well. The colors for today are going to be Payne's gray, nickel Azo yellow, maybe some Hansa yellow medium, transparent Pyrrole orange. I expect to get into there. Burnt Umber, Quinacridone Gold, Phthalo Green, Ultramarine Blue. Phthalo Blue, Ultramarine Blue. I could potentially, possibly pull like a red or a quinacridone in. I don't necessarily see that happening, and I don't see me using any opera pink today. just because today it's not really in the reference. It is a good idea to have the reference downloaded and printed out if you can, or at least on another device, so you can look at it. Even if you're following along with me, seeing what we're doing and where we're going can really help anchor you in the process. We like to say that you can't paint what you can't see, and it's true that some people paint from their memory or imagination, but that memory was developed by looking at a lot of things and drawing them or painting them again and again and again, and so what they have is a visual catalog. It's not just a miraculous thing. Generally, that process is generally one of hard work. So you got to start where you are, which is looking at what you're painting. Hey, John,
yes.
How are we doing today?
Good. Everyone out here is really good.
This is going to shock everybody. This is going to shock you. It's going to be a longer watercolor lesson than those usual short ones that you see out there that are 20 minutes. That's because the full process is going to be included. We're going to go through it. We're going to answer questions. If you have a question, be sure to put it in all caps. The moderators either on Facebook or YouTube will help you find the answer. And yes, there is a giveaway today. So if you're on YouTube, after the live stream is over, entirely in the comments to be entered to win a set of enamel Art Sherpa pens, you would write a comment and the hashtag the Art Sherpa after the live show's over, because live comments can't be sorted by the comment picker tool. If you're on Facebook, you can do that anytime just make any comment with the hashtag the Art Sherpa to enter in. There are some restrictions. I will post the complete set of rules right after the show, because that's when it lets me put it in the comments so you can see those. You'll have like a week to enter, so it's not a rush thing. And you don't have to purchase anything or do anything or get super chat, or you don't have to get like super chat stickers or send stars to be entered. It's just a comment and, you know, be over 18 and be a place that we can send mail less than $35 for these pens. So it's pretty mobile. So this time these are global. Okay, so that's it. Moderators will answer your questions about the giveaway, and we keep them pretty mellow.
Now,
you guys, you got to print out your traceables, guys.
We're going to stay international as long as it remains reasonable for us to try to get it to you. And what I mean by reasonable is that there's some folks stationed in Antarctica. It is extremely expensive to get it to those folks.
Yeah, you guys got to know that about yourselves.
But you know that.
You got to be in a place
so you got to work
with
with
a reasonable
us.
post office. You know, so
We'll work with you. We want to give this to you. We want
to give it to you.
So work with us and we'll get it to you.
So how a traceable is going to work is we're going to take the back side of the printout. You print it out, scale to fit on your printer, and you rub graphite on the back, all over the back, right? That's a pencil. And then you come over and you trace the lines. You go over the black lines that are provided, pressing down with your pencil. And what that will give you is a transfer of that graphite onto your paper. Right? And you want to go over every line. This really helps you with the architectural elements and to be ready for the inking.
Be ready for the inking.
Right? So you trace that all on, print that out, trace that on. If you cannot trace this one on, you've got to be at the skill set to freehand it on your own. This would be like a 2-hour drawing lesson. So
wow, that would be that's true. This is a whole thing on its own.
This is a whole thing on its own, and that's why I like line and wash, because it lets you get into watercolor subjects you couldn't do without this concept. Because how line and wash works is that the lines anchor the painting, and then you can focus on the techniques and on how we're getting the rock effect, the cloud effect, the stone effect, and how we can be open and loose and still have enough anchor for an object to look like what it is. So I have low-tack tape affixing it down, and that really helps me have the drawing not move. And there's a couple of ways that you can do your line and wash. Again, I'm going to show you the Faber-Castell Pitt pen. It's just nice and precision. And so you come to your objects, and it's not about having like these perfect little lines. And it can be very confusing. Sometimes it feels like perfect lines, but it's not about them. It is about the general structure. And so what you want to get is enough information of the general structure that when you come over with the watercolor, we all know what it is. So if I've got lots of little upward arcs here, I'm going to want to have those upward arcs. You got little dots down. I can put those in, and that can help me get that sense of wall. If I have a little wall over here, all right, that helps me get that if I'm not ready to like freehand or draw the wall out. You know, you can come up and put in some elements of even bushes or trees if you want to. Just to show how an object might exist in the world that it's in, and then the paint finishes it out for you. So you don't necessarily have to worry about every element. You start to get just the important ones. The line and wash often does not completely remove the need to be able to look at the reference and draw what you see. You don't need to have a perfectly steady line. You know, you're just trying to capture the the essence of the landscape or the elements of that. So sometimes
Wow.
a little unsteadiness gets you a long way.
It's so cool.
It is pretty cool. I like it, and you know, other than sometimes even in this stage, I'm a little focused just so that my pen is steady. Sometimes you'll find it's hard to talk and draw and keep a steady line.
Yeah.
That is not that unexpected. And so if you're doing this for the first time on your own, I have to talk and draw. That's how I'm going to teach you. These are going to get smaller as they go around. But you don't, so don't.
Huh.
Unless you're like super confident and ready to do it. Because it will, you need to sort of hold your breath or steady yourself to get good results in your drawing. I kind of like this little area down here. Might make some little rough lines to sort of represent some stonework or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't do it everywhere, but just a couple places can be really nice. You might find that you can add a few little stone textures into these walls. Look at this.
Wow.
Now, when I go to paint it, those little stone elements will inform the overall stone element. So the lining is a bit of work. The other thing is I don't have to then, if I want to create a sense of trees or landscape, even though I'm going to come in and absolutely paint these in, I have the opportunity to create some constraining forms to them. And I want to be careful with that because I want the watercolor to still have a chance to come in and tell some of the story. So just enough lines to anchor what I've got. Not too many, just enough line. You know, just enough line to say, oh, that's happened there. And this one has got some great little branches coming out. And so I can put this out here. Even though I know I'm going to have sky and everything there, that's really nice to do.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's a nice fine tip on this, I can get some pretty good little fine lines into my space and wander it around. If you have trouble doing those wander around things, I've given you all the anchoring lines in the traceable. So you don't have to just know. And just remember, you don't want to rely, you're not doing a coloring book. Right? You're using the weight of the line to help represent this texture or scale. I'm going to add some stone here. I'm not doing the little people on this one because the scale of this, if this was on a 20 by 30 piece of paper, I might do the people in this. But the scale on this is so small, it would be just problematic. But I do like the little stone wall that's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we're going to be able to add little elements. And you know, coming along here, I can sit there and talk a little bit about the stones along the wall edge. Just like I did a little bit in the castle. It's just a little bit. You don't want to get too... because you still want some of your watercolor to tell the story. The stones are really great. We're going to do a whole bunch of different techniques on the stones, and if you can loosen up on your lines on the stones a lot, it will help. Because stones themselves are very broken up. So I like to get loose on my lines on the stones. And I've got a great little kind of shoreline that I will do a little bit, but I'm going to be much finer on the shoreline. See how I am? Much finer on that shoreline.
Yeah.
Putting in little stones here. I am not probably going to add a black line to the clouds or the water line there. That's going to be something that comes through the painting.
Those will be too strong.
Those will be too
They'd
strong.
be too strong? Yeah.
I feel so. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to use my T-square. And just to make sure that I've got a good line, I'm going to take a blue watercolor pencil. This one is the Crondosh Cobalt Blue. And just make sure that my horizon line is pretty level. So when I go to do my sky and ocean, I've got a nice straight line separating them up, but I don't want a black line. All right, are you guys understanding that? And do we have any questions? And I want to heat my coffee, but I can't heat it in here because the AC's on. So many things. I'll read
Did you
the
see what's
I'll read
going
the
on
doc.
here?
Huh? The dog has got your sock. I do see
The
that.
one I'm wearing, though.
While you're wearing them, I do see that. I never get that on camera when I want to. Oh, by the way, I did a TikTok yesterday that I thought was so funny. I was pretending to be a sculptor because they have this filter that makes you a sculptor. And I always think about what it's like to be art and have people just talk about you there. And so I was trying to talk to people from the perception of being the sculptor. And then I was going to have Mona Lisa go. And I thought it would be so funny. But I think it sounded like I was feeling like kind of fragile in my sense of security. And so there were some really lovely comments put out online to bolster my feelings. And while it was intended totally to be humorous, the comments were so nice. I have to say, I really appreciate the comments. They were so sweet and kind and uplifting and really good. And you might have seen the video on my story on Facebook or YouTube or TikTok. I don't really have a lot of followers on TikTok, but I have fun ones. The ones I have are fun. Anyways, I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try to fix it because the concept's supposed to be like, what's it like to be a statue? And then the statue answers what that experience is like. And then the Mona Lisa is like shocked at the answer. I still feel it will be funny. I just think that I'm not a professional comedian, so my delivery was weird. Is what I think happened. All right. Let me see if there's any questions while John's taking care of that. Where does $35 go globally? I have no idea. I go to the post office. Corey, a CGD, asked that question. I go to the post office and I ask that. It goes pretty far, but there's places it might not go. So that was like our shipping budget. Sherilyn, never entered before, so can I enter now here? And she asked this on YouTube. So wait until the end of the show after the live is completely over. There's a comment section that opens up on YouTube. You just write a comment with the hashtag the Art Sherpa. Amanda Sigley, Cinnamon, could you do a Shetland Sheepdog and a Bernese Mountain Dog tutorial? Yes, I could do that. Tinker Quinn, have I done a German Shepherd before? I've done Shepherds, but not a German Shepherd, Tinker. Shannon, do you guys have a Maltese? Oh, wait, I think I'm answering
Questions from previous?
I'm answering questions from a completely previous show. So that's funny.
Dun, dun, dun.
Laura Holmes Bankley, thank you for the stars for this show. Diane Huffman, thank you for the stars. Irene Waters, thank you for the stars. And Vicky, thank you for the stars. I'm embarrassed. I just answered yesterday's show questions.
Yo, they may have sounded familiar.
No.
You know, I know we
No,
answer
nothing sounds familiar. I'm always like completely at a loss from where I am. Always. I don't know where I am. I don't know what I'm doing. I just show up in art.
So this is a live show.
This is a live show.
And you've noticed that her coffee is cold, so she's not, you know, that's
So this is a
barometer.
product called Oxgall. Can you guys see this bottle? You can add a few drops to your water to help your bloom. If you're having problems with your water bloom, this may be what you need. There are other products that work as well. This is just one that I know. We're going to do a thing. We're going to pre-wet the sky area.
okay.
We're going to come in with our brush and kind of paint around our black lines a bit. And we're going to wet our sky. This is with a 3/4 inch oval brush, but you could use a mop or a hake, okay, or any flat wash. You just want to be able to wet out the paper in fairly easy strokes. So whatever brush you have that will do that, that will wet the paper without over wetting the paper. That is really the trick. The trick to also see what paper didn't get wet is to turn it in a light and see what paper is still matte versus what paper is shining.
Ah.
So that's another thing that you can do. And you can see the watercolor pencil, when I come along that line, immediately starts to bloom and soften in that sky. So I want the paper to be wet. I'm on a 140-pound watercolor paper block, Fabriano. This is all the materials are in the description below. And that's going to prevent my paper from warping and buckling too much. And what I can see, because our lights are bright, I can sometimes see what is not wet enough in the reflection. I may go ahead and continue to use this brush for my overall sky. I'm going to take a half mix of my ultramarine and my phthalo blue to get my sky color. And I'm going to just come along here above everything. Careful as I can. And loosely use this to paint the sky, kind of in a sweeping motion up. We're going to be exaggerating those clouds that we have here. We need enough paint to do the next technique. So I need to make sure I've got enough paint on here to do the lift technique that I'm going to want to do. And I'll bring just enough sky around here for this part of the painting to feel like it belongs.
Wow.
And this is all I'm going to do. Now already watercolor gives you kind of a good sky. That's watercolor's nature, is to give you guys kind of a good sky.
Now, do you know where this castle is?
I do not, but I would vacation there. Wouldn't you guys want to have an art retreat there?
Yes.
Now I've had some accidental clouds kind of pull in, and one of the things I want you to start recognizing is when you get a cloud you didn't mean to get into your landscape. I'm going to use a sea sponge. You could use a crumpled up paper towel for the next part. I'm going to lift up, subtract while it's wet, some paint without my hair on it. Kind of coming up to the side. Can you see how I'm doing that?
Mm-hmm.
You can also do paper towel. Sea sponge is a little softer because it tends to be wet. Paper towel is a little harder edges because it tends to be dry. You can see I'm just kind of breaking that there. And then right here, I'm going to lift up some hard white. And this only works before the paper's, completely dry. And if there's enough ink on it to make it go. And I don't want to take away the clouds that I kind of had, so I'm going to leave those. And that's how I'm going to get the beginning of that sky. First of all, have a minute there. You had no idea that skies and clouds could be like that, right? That easy, that wonderful, that fun. It's just, how do you not love that moment in your life? It's real easy to feel like, things are always got to be super difficult or always super uneasy. I'm going to take a little burnt umber over towards my blue. It makes a great gray. We can do undersides of clouds in this wonderful gray. I've got the ultramarine blue here. Round brush. And just kind of painting the undersides of some of these clouds. And come under that little accidental moment. You see how that kind of gives that cloud shape and form? Under this one a bit. And being under it and then it's light on top helps that cloud look like it's got a little form. I can come here. My brush is wet, but it's not mopped wet. It's like wet enough to release some paint, but not soaked. Not all the way dry brush, but dry brush is second cousin.
Mm-hmm.
Just adding some shadow to that one a bit. So what's nice about that is when we have shadow, and then I can soften those shadows by coming to the top of where I put them and add a little water and blend them out. You might not even known you could do that with clouds to help them shape out. Come in and soften. And that's really what's hard about clouds, is getting those soft versus hard edges, right?
Mm-hmm.
Watercolor, it helps us get there. Look at that unbelievable sky coming out of nowhere. And take a little of my Ultramarine Blue and my Phthalo Blue again. A little more Phthalo Blue. Coming in kind of with a glaze above some of these clouds, right? So that helps define them because I'm coming above them. I'm rinsing out and I'm creating a soft little wash here. So this is painting back into the space that's maybe a little more negative, painting between the clouds to help the clouds find form.
Mm.
Right? You can find those little spaces. Let it wash and be subtle. It can be very subtle. So it's a pretty complex sky that you can get with a modicum of effort.
Anna thinks those clouds look amazing. I have to agree.
Yeah, when you realize watercolor clouds have many of the same principles of our acrylic clouds, but come into being a little easier once you understand the technique of them, you start to become really fond of watercolor clouds. You do. And you can always, if you're like, oh, I don't like, an area in there, you can always come back and soften with something like, if I get my watercolor sponge wrung, like dipped in water and wrung out, you want to wring it out. You can soften any of this very easily. Look at how I can soften that. So that doesn't have to be hard. A little damp sponge. The couple of things that work is it sort of distributes it picks up the paint. It gives you a little bit of softening because the watercolor doesn't dry and then become permanent the way acrylic does. And I think we're kind of good on the sky.
Mm.
Isn't that a lovely watercolor sky?
It really is.
Right? And so I have this architecture of this castle and I have this architecture of these stones, but because that's set, I can then just paint in what I love about it in the sky. I'm going to come here and get my brush wet, and I'm going to pre-wet my castle bit just real fast. My sky is dry now. I want this side to be dry for this technique to work, and you can see I'm going right over the ink, aren't I? I'm going to pull out a little bit of my Quinacridone Gold here. and start to wash in the beginning of my castle. Everywhere that my castle stone is, I can start putting it in.
Mm.
It's not bad. It's
No,
kind of
not at
lovely,
all.
right? A beginning. I can take a little bit of my Payne's Gray and Burnt Umber together. Come to the left side of things. Come underneath turrets. Maybe shade some walls. Again, super light at this stage. Scam likely as always. I do
Someone.
not wish to change my Medicare plan, which I've explained a lot. A lot. Now I'm going to take my bright brush. I'm going to get it kind of wet, and I'm going to come over maybe to my Quinacridone Gold. I'm going to tap up and down a slightly rough texture. Can you guys see me get that? I'm roughing this texture up a bit. The paper's still wet, so even as I rough it up, it softens up in. I'm not doing anything I can't change my mind about. I got a little more brown there. Look at that. Just on a bright. If you don't have a watercolor bright, you can grab a bright that you do have from another painting process that you do. The bright is the square shape of it, and because I've let it be dry, I'm dry brushing, but I'm dry brushing wet into wet. So the brush is dry, but the paper is wet, and it's going to allow me to get the best of both worlds, where I get a dry brush texture, but I'm also softening as I go. What? I know. Come right here into this dark color. Come right into that dark color. Oh, I love it. I can get the brush wet, kind of wipe off to get the water out of it, load up into the black, and then dry it again. Make sure that I've got texture. A lot more on the left side. Isn't that wild? How lovely. I'm going to get some of my nickel Azo Yellow. Such a powerful color. Kind of glaze maybe some of the front of this with it. Let's get into my transparent Pyrrole Orange. There's quite a warm tone to this. And as you can see, the castle itself, it comes together because I have the line on there. The line doesn't run, it holds, and that's really important to it. And come back with a damp sponge. Need to, and kind of soften around here. While this is having a think about itself, I might come here into this other area of stone, and then maybe along the base of this, up into what is going to be the trees. Oh, sorry, I can answer it. I'm getting
Yep.
Quinacridone Gold, and let's go into here.
So what kind of brush is that?
This is a Raphael Soft Aqua. It is imitation squirrel, but it performs fully like it's real hair. It's amazing.
And how dry is it?
Right now it's wet. When I'm doing a texture like that, it's going to be dry. When I'm doing a blend and flow, it's going to be wet. And so that's what you're going to be looking for, is when it's wet.
And
I'm going to come in and get a little black here. I'll go ahead and put some shadows in just early. That looks good. Nice little beginning. Let's come down into our rock area, I think. The rocks coming along the landscape, and we'll wash that out a bit. It's okay if what's up top blends down into here. This is the beginning. I'm going to take a little bit of my Quin Gold and Burnt Umber and just kind of start a wash. Let it kind of settle into this. I don't want it to be too bright any one particular place. I'm going to get a little bit of my transparent Pyrrole Orange and Burnt Umber. And paint in some of these distant little stones, right? Distant little stone values. This one is a little bit orange here. You can find little pops of the orange. It's kind of interesting. The beginnings of the stonework, right? Down here, it's a little browner, so I'm going to grab some of that brown.
Mm-hmm. Brown.
Come into my gray. You know, and the thing about rocks is they have sharp angles. And they have many faces, so there's lots of dramatic light and dark elements to them that you get to paint. You know, like I get to paint a dramatic dark element right here. Coming into that. Rinse out, and I'm going to get my bright again. Come and get some of that Quin, right? Wipe off on a towel so it's not too. And I'm going to make angular marks. Can you see how I'm making angular marks? I'm going to play with that stonework. I want to talk about the stones. I'm going to tap into my black. And up here, kind of making those little marks for that stonework.
All right. Well, the Sherpettes have found it.
What?
Jennifer says. This is
Oh, where it is?
castle. This castle is Lloret de Mar in Spain.
Oh, wonderful.
According to Google image search. It's a private summer home built in the 1930s.
Do they rent it out? Is it a B&B?
Is this a? We should find out. This may be a
This
Sherpa
is
stop.
really cool. Don't you think this is really cool? If
Sherpa-
COVID ever ends and we can reboot the retreat, let's go here.
There's a new Sherpa tourism department where we watercolor paint all the most beautiful places in the world that you can go visit.
I like that plan. Let's do that. I'm going to get my
Watercolor.
quinacridone over here. And again, it's on a dry brush. And you can see I'm just dry brushing the stone. And dry brushing the stone really helps it feel like stone, doesn't it?
Mm. What is the ratio of oxgall to water?
It has instructions on the bottle, but it's just a few drops to your cup of water. It has exact measurements on the bottle, and you've got to be a little careful.
All right.
A little careful. I'm just making the value of this just a little bit darker than the top.
Mm.
And I'm going to come along this edge. I'm going to get in my nickel Azo Yellow, and I'm going to come along this edge, and I think I want to lighten it a bit. So I'm going to pull this yellow here. And then I may come back with a towel, paper towel, just to lift it a bit. How I'm doing. The paper lifts pretty well because it has a lot of perfect sizing in it. That's the glue that pulls the paper together. And it's 100% cotton rag. And so even as I do things, it always kind of really is super resistant and resilient to all of my creative whims. I'm going to take my Payne's Gray and my Quin Gold and just continue to play with this sort of rough line of stones that are happening. I'm going to come here. Just come along the edge. Just creating a rough line of stones. A little bit of my Payne's Gray. There's a shadow from this tree that comes down. I will want it there later, so I'm putting it in now. Just building up stonework. It's not going to work. I want to flick some on there. So I'm going to do this. I want to kind of splatter a little bit as well, I think. I can get the right offlet. I may have to do it with a bright. Gonna have to do it with a bright. I'm going to come up in here. Now, up in the top, I'm going to grab, I think this is the one time it might be nice with some burnt umber. I'll go ahead and get some Pyrrole Red just in this, just to get this. I'm going to put in some of this tree. Very loosely. Sort of brown red tree that's here. And it's okay if it goes into the sky, you don't mind. It can go past its little lines. I'm going to get a little of my gray here. On the corner of my brush, I'm going to go under some of these branches. Some of these little bits of leaves, just so that there's sort of lights and darks on that little tree up there. I'm going to come here, and I think I'm inclined to initially start all the woodland stuff with maybe a nice wash. We'll see if we're sorry about it later. I'll switch to my round, but I feel like that's maybe what I want to do. Just to start, and then I'll come back with some maybe dry brushing to give it some hard edges. I'm going to take a little of my nickel Azo Yellow, and maybe I'll get my Ultramarine Blue. Ultramarine Blue and the nickel Azo Yellow is going to give me a green gold. And the areas where I think is going to be the tops of these, And I'm going to look into them, kind of see if I can see where I think the tops of them are going to be. They have deep shadows. We can always darken. We can't light. We want to work lightest to dark, right? So we can always darken in a piece. Tough to lighten. If I want to rinse out, I can come into my sky color if I want to. Maybe add out here a little bit of sky color in the leaves, like perhaps they got a little bit going. I'm going to get my ground color, which is my Quin. Between the leaves, a couple places, there's earth. I want that earth to show. You know, I don't want it to be all gone, and those little pops of color are important. I'm going to take my green and my burnt umber together. You can see get just a deep, deep green. And on the toe of my brush, I'm very preciously going to paint out the shadows of these trees. But the paper's wet, so it's going to soften as I paint. If I didn't line and wash, these are not dissimilar techniques that I would be doing to create these values. Think that the sunlight is coming in from here, so just make sure that you're shading your trees so that the tops of what is their branches as the paint is blooming out is greener than the shadows. Painting a little bit of greenery. And we'll have to come back with an even darker color, you know, to show the shadows on the hill, but this is how we're getting the values. If the paper dries on you too much, you can always come back and re-wet it with a sponge or with your brush. It's all fine. In fact, a cool thing I can show you, I'm going to get my sponge a little wet. Like a little wet. And I'll dip it in this color that I've made. And I'll add that sponge texture to those plants. See how I'm doing?
There we go. So is there, can you use acrylics to paint like this?
Yes, you can. A lot of these techniques will carry over. The acrylics just won't relift. So where I'm able to reactivate and resoften, you wouldn't be able to get those techniques out of it, but you would be able to get many, many of the same techniques. Can you see how I'm using the sponge, and then over even the lines, those little branches and things can come out, can't they? And that's okay. That's okay. I can get my little brown and green in it. Come in from that edge and make that a strong value. Pinch. Rather like that. Just loose and floral. Go ahead and rinse out, put to the side. I'm going to get my brush again. I'm going to get my Payne's Gray on my number 14 soft aqua round. Right, this is the one with the good point, and I'm going to make sure that I've got a good load, and I'm going to come in and where I have a shadow under like maybe some things like the turrets, I might come in and add some shadow. Just so that my castle has like value and doors and things, you know, in it. Because it does, it has values. Put a little bit of a shadow there. Just again, to make sure that it has lights and darks and shadows and any of that. I can lighten any door by coming back. I was like, oh, that needs to be lighter. You can lighten. See, I'm lightening? You can lighten. So you're not, if you don't like something, you're not stuck. And oh, by the way, you can go back over things with ink again, so you're not stuck. I'm going to go ahead and finish up these rocks here. Same kind of process of techniques, I believe. You know, just getting my basic little rock color going, and then I've got some Quin and some burnt umber. Sometimes I get into some yellow there. I just want to light. These are a little lighter out here.
Does one sponge do better than another sponge?
Yeah, I like little sea sponges. I don't really like craft sponges, and I like the smaller ones. The issues with these is you got to watch for these holes. These holes can make like really distinctive patterns, which will mess it up, which is why you see me pinching to the side that doesn't have holes. So that's what you've got to look out for those. I get them in giant packs. So like where sometimes the Cretacolor pencils are not a good deal on Amazon because you've got to buy 30 of them in a shot. These should be about $3 for a big bag. So doable. And does not destroy the environment, if you were at all worried about that. I'm going to come over and get some of my dark brown. Out here on these rocks, we have a little bit dark brown towards the water. All right. Towards the water a little bit. And then I'm going to come into my Quin Gold, because these also have this weird banding of Quin Gold at the edge here. Quinacridone is a cool color. I may come back and put the white stripe in. I'm going to add a little banding of that same color to the edge there. That looks really good. Shockingly fun watercolor, right? It's just loose. Something you can do. You can do line and wash. Even if you're very new to painting, you can do line and wash.
You know what? Line and wash has me so excited. I have my watercolor stuff back out.
Yeah, he does. He's very excited about line and wash.
Well, okay, so yeah, it's super easy to do because, well, I'll break some secret news. I've been developing a product that I wanted to use, which was something to make it easier for me to be able to do watercolor with her. And fun. And so it was pretty cool.
No, you tell me about it. It's okay. I'm just painting a little gray in the shadows.
I don't know. I feel like I shouldn't talk about things until they're ready.
But you just started talking. What is with you? You always start talking about something, then you talk about something. Okay, that is like that premiere for this new Dark Side of Bob Ross documentary that's released today on Netflix.
I'm so like that. That's what it is I'm going to tell you about something that's so
But
cool,
I can't tell you until don't tell me, no spoilers if you've already watched. If you didn't know, there's some drama spill the tea documentary about Bob Ross. Now, I actually know a bunch of people who knew Bob, and so I know some tea. But I don't know if this documentary is going to spill tea that I know or tea that I don't know. And depending on the tea, I mean, because I know a lot of different tea, I just don't know what tea spilled. I don't know what tea spilled, but there is much. So I don't know how the estate and Bob Inc., which by the way are two separate things, very separate, have managed to keep like the whole backstory so locked down. Like so mysterious, because it's not that mysterious. And I haven't seen this stuff on YouTube. Haven't. I've seen one book that they did enough research to uncover about 30-40% of it. So I'm trying to figure out how much tea. And there's a Seth Meyers video where they interview the people that made it that we have to watch after. And then we're going to watch. And then, I don't know, I guess we'll have to talk about what we think about it. Right? But I'm only going to go with the tea because I have to tell you, it's like if you like Bob Alexander, there's stuff about Bob Alexander. That tea could spill. We don't know. Right? But then there's also tea about Bob Alexander. It almost spilled at a retreat that I was at that I was like not prepared for. Right? You don't know what the tea is because there's so much tea. I mean, I have tea. My tea is probably not as exciting though. My tea is probably like, oh, I'm just kind of adding some more hard lines to, you know, speak about these rocks up front and kind of that. And I'll definitely get more of my dry, brushy, bright stuff involved because, you know, we liked that, didn't we? I liked it anyways, and get some of that. There. I like those lines. They feel so rocky to me. That's pretty good. Now, under here is fairly dry. And interestingly enough, I'm going to turn this, I don't have to turn it, but I'm going to come here. And I'm using my bright, and I'm going to get it kind of wet. Coming forward and under these rocks.
Oh, let me go over and try to look at the side.
Right? Has anyone already seen it, or are they all waiting on the tea, or did they not know there was tea?
I don't think, let me see. I'm looking at cameras right now, so I can't read.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if any of you knew. I'm taking a little of the nickel Azo Yellow, and I'm starting there. Because the rocks do reflect in the water. Now let's get a little of our Quin. I'm going to put that in there. Quin and green actually will work quite well. Maybe a little more. I'll get the Hansa yellow kind of involved. I'm using my bright so that I have little lines that I can get into in a second, you know? So Quin and burnt umber. So this is Quin Gold and Phthalo Green. And I'm going to take this little bright brush and I'm going to make little kind of short and curved strokes. That's going to be kind of like the reflections in the water, if that makes sense.
This is, no, some folks are like, this is interesting. Not heard of this.
You did not know there was tea, or you did not know there was a documentary about to spill some kind of tea?
I think all of the above.
Okay, yeah. I will candidly tell you right now, because I have a small watercolor channel, there is Bob tea. And here's what I'm going to say about Bob tea, or Bill Alexander tea. We need to be kinder about our heroes having to be, and I'm sure you guys, because you watch me, and you know, so you must have embraced the imperfect. But I just think as a society, we have to recognize that our heroes are imperfect. They are not all heroes or not all demons. They're not all good. They're not all bad. People are a spectrum. I know that's the word of the 2010 to 2020, right? A spectrum. It's a gradation. It's a rainbow. It's not just binary, right? And so none of the tea I ever heard changed my opinion of Bob and his work. There is his work, and there is Bob's life.
Right.
Different things. And do people have to... I've really had to come to terms with this because one of my very favorite artists recently just passed. I didn't know him, but I looked up to him, Chuck Close. But Chuck Close got caught up in the Me Too movement. Not caught up in it. I think he walked right in. Well, that's wrong words. Walked into super inappropriate because he was not able to walk. But he ended up in it. Now, he also suffered from brain trauma, which required a type of dementia that may have caused him to say and do the types of things that he did. And so even those reports may be more about the people that were working on Chuck's team should have been aware of that and protected the models from that experience. If any of you have worked with people who have sundowners or the type of dementia where there's cussing or inappropriate things, or even somebody who works with somebody who has a tic or Tourette's where sometimes things are inappropriately said because of the condition, right? Obviously that's not under anybody's control. And so we'll never know because it never really got talked about. Was it a health condition or was it a behavior? And the whole art world just took a pause and they stopped exhibiting his work. And my point was like, there's the work and the man.
Mm-hmm.
The work is the work, and there's the man. And the behavior bad behavior should never be condoned. It should always have consequences, and I totally understand that. But I also think that, you know, we have to be present to the fact that people are super imperfect, right? Without embracing inappropriate behavior. I feel like there's a space in the world. Maybe it's because I'm Gen X. But I feel like there's this space between screaming hysterically and pitchforks and complete apathy to some sort of measured, like, that's some blankety-blanketery, and I don't blankety-blanketery approve of it, and I might not support that product or that person in this kind of a way, but I recognize that people are a work in progress. They can improve, they can change, they can make mistakes, and all things are not equal, and let's like look at each situation. Oh my gosh, I've gotten on a weird soapbox. Let's get back to painting. I'm so sorry. Now you're worried about Bob's tea, because why would I have gone on that long about it without Bob's tea? It could be scary. Bob did some stuff in his life, but other people did some stuff to Bob. I don't know what tea's going.
We don't know.
I don't know if it's the stuff that Bob did or the stuff done to Bob.
There's
but
just
both teas exist at the same time.
There's so much tea.
So much tea. And I don't know the tea. I'm going to re-wet my paper because I got to monologuing like a villain. You know, and I don't want to get people upset because, you know, oh, God, people are just so ready to be upset. And I tell my daughter all the time, there are times to be upset. There's absolutely times to be outraged and upset and on the move and all of that. And then sometimes there's times to sit back and wait and see for the dust to settle. I'm still waiting on the Johnny Depp, Amber Heard stuff for the dust to settle. And I've also accepted I may never know the full story. I wonder, like, sometimes when I'm online, do people accept they might not know the full story? We might not know what Erica Jane knew. We may never know. We may never know. But again, maybe that's because I'm Gen X and I'm like, I expect everyone to lie to me and nobody to tell the truth. And you know, same, different day kind of a thing. But, I mean, go Wolverines. I'm going to add a little dark layer along the waterline. Do any of you guys get what I mean? Or, you know what, just tell me what you think in the comments. It's okay for you to have an opinion. Just don't cuss or be racist. Those two things, that would be my two things. Don't be those two things, and I can hear what your opinion is. So if you can avoid those two activities, we're good, and you can tell me what you think of my opinions on stuff. I can hear another opinion. I won't die from it. Then watch me die from it. Totally, like, find that space. I'm taking my Ultramarine Blue and my Phthalo Green, and I'm mixing them together to get kind of more of an aqua. And I'm going to bring that aqua into here, and I'm still using my bright brush. And I'm going to take, this is a little wet, and I'm bringing these reflections in and making kind of little curve marks to sort of talk about the ripples in the water. Right? There's ripples in the water. So does anybody know what the tea is? Or is no one aware of the tea?
Let's see here. There's not a whole lot of awareness of the tea.
No, everyone's now worried. They're like, not Bob. I do not think it will be a Me Too kind of video, though.
Mostly folks are pretty much celebrating how awesome you are.
Oh, thank you. And, oh, by the way, I'm capable of growth. If I'm not aware or tapped in or being rounded in my perspective and you have a reasonable point to be like, hey, have you thought of this? I will listen to you.
I'm trying to check.
I can hear a perspective and listen to another person's experience and be like, oh, okay, like, I hear you. I'm going to continue on here with this kind of
Tammy says it's about the company, not about Bob.
Then I know the tea.
Okay.
Then I know what tea it is, and you're going to be shocked.
That's kind of what I thought it might be.
Yeah, I was wondering if that's what it was, too. I was wondering if that was ever going to come out. Been wondering. Been wondering if that's what the Keep the Dream Alive thing has been about lately. Because I've been watching that going, what is this? I almost commented, and then I was like, maybe I don't want to weigh in here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to add a little bit of my blue kind of coming out around these rocks. And I'm doing it with the bright, and as you can see, it's just the best brush. And look at how we're able to get these cool water effects. I think it's just awesome water effects.
Mm-hmm.
The water is just the best in this painting. So I love chatting with you guys. I filter a lot because I recognize this is the internet, and the internet has a tendency to like lose its mind on a regular. I mean, it does. The internet collectively, people are okay, but the internet, Patty Hoffman, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I don't get a lot of super chat over on YouTube Watercolor, so thank you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
We've had a lot of wonderful support out here today, so thank everybody.
Very much.
It's really nice.
I think there's this, I'm taking a little bit of my burnt umber over here to kind of get that blue-gray. It feels like to me, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that we're almost so afraid of being wrong that we like lose it if anybody points it out.
Mm.
Like I'm wrong a lot, so if I couldn't reconcile that, I don't know how I would get through my day. It seems like people are so afraid of being wrong or misinformed or unaware or not knowing that they just never say a thing.
I am regularly wrong enough and I'm not worried about being wrong.
Yeah, what are you going to do about it? It's going to happen.
It is a byproduct of being me.
Byproduct of being me too. There we go. So, I mean, like, in regards to my daughter, like, I also think that there's just a point sometimes when you're young that you just have to rage against the machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
You just have to. You have to find battles that you are excited about and fight them on a very right, wrong, the world is simple kind of stage. I remember when the world was simple. I remember before buttered popcorn at the movie theater was a death trap.
Yeah.
Remember when it was just food that you ate at the movie theater?
And you weren't worried about dying from it?
You were like... Though I feel like, the great food experiment was committed on me and Dawn and others like us. So, we've survived. You can survive. Canary in the coal mine that we are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still here. I'm just taking these deep values. You see how I'm washing in here and then I'm painting in deep values, and that's helping me kind of capture that feeling of the ripples. Another thing that we can do is I can come in and get a little ultramarine, and look at this. I can come in and while it's still wet and also actively kind of ripple through the water.
It really does. It makes wonderful waves.
I really love it. I love water. I love this castle. I love all of this. This has been really fun to paint. It's also been really fun to dish.
Mm.
Oh, Brandy's like, do you remember colored popcorn? Dude, we were just talking about this the other day. I remember the merry-go-round on asphalt playgrounds. I was watching a TikToker and was reminded of that, and I was like, oh, yeah, and that hurt, too.
The death wheel.
The death wheel. I think we had moves that referred to death on it, like the death drop and the death fling. Like, we had a lot of, like, different ways if you were projected forward or backwards off of it. Like, if you were hanging like this forward, and that was a death spiral, and, how close your face could get to the concrete. Yeah, there was some really, like...
What were we thinking?
I don't know. I think what it was is we were unsupervised.
Now, remember, once it got up to speed, there was always the kid who tried to run and jump on. It just got
yeah. And you would, like, lose that kid. That kid would be gone. And you would be like, Timmy's down.
Like, the pole took him out.
Bye, Timmy. It was good knowing you.
That thing gets to spinning.
We literally lived in a neighborhood once that still had one of those, and we were so... I mean, it had dirt. It hadn't gone the full, like... full thing. Full Monty, but...
Doom wheel.
It hadn't gone full, Mad Max playground, but it had it, and... it was real fun. We got some shameful looks from the other younger parents who would not let their kids play on that. And we were like with our daughter going, no, it'll be good. It'll be fine. I got some Neosporin and some spray. Go, we're ready.
Yep.
I felt like if I had a popsicle for busted lips and Neosporin and spray, and some Band-Aids. I was ready for everything. I'm just adding a darker color in the distance with that ultramarine blue and a little phthalo blue to kind of create a little value far away, like you might. I'm going to get a little bit of my color again mixed together pretty heavily, and I'm going to come right under here. I'm going to do kind of a localized color, which is instead of just glazing a shadow, I'm going to do a dark version of the color.
Mm.
See how we're doing around the rock? Just to show that the rocks, exist in the water. What do you guys think?
I think
It's kind of
pretty
fun.
phenomenal.
I'm surprised that I haven't got myself canceled by the end of the show.
Why would we cancel?
Amy's like, never mind that those merry-go-rounds heated up to 1,000 degrees to make the whole experience. Yes,
Oh
they
my
were the
gosh.
surface of the sun.
all of the steel playground equipment.
Your flesh would stick to it.
No, this is
Your legs would be stuck to it, but your body would be coming free, and then some of your skin and your body would have to separate for you to be like, this is why I understand physics and inertia.
this is especially true if
I lived it.
if you grew up on a military base, because they didn't want any of their stuff to ever break, so they built it all out of like post-military aircraft supplies. So it's like, wow, there's titanium sheeting on our slide.
Oh, so I have a Stabilo titanium white pastel pencil. And I'm going to add some highlights to some things here just to be sure that I've got them. I just want a few little highlights, if that makes sense. I don't have to do that, but I just kind of like sometimes coming in. I'm going to be a little scratchy. It's a weird thing to do, I know, but I like the effect of it.
Carrie's like, is there a better way to send money than stars?
Be a patron!
How do you become a patron?
You go to our website and you pick a budget that works for you, and then you get all the things.
So more specifically, if you go to our website, theartsherpa.com, and then click on Patron, there's a little button there, and that Patron button will bring you to a page where you can select however you would like to participate as a patron. And we have many ways, because we really could use your help with electricity and other lights and things that I put in the studio. Lots of wood, 2x4s, screws, things like that.
So I like to take the titanium white pastel pencil and kind of scribble it around because it gives me like a really nice like rock scratch effect. You could probably use any pastel, stick pastel, oil pastel at this stage. It's like okay to use any, sometimes in dark skies you can come back with these and get some really neat effects. And you can see that they go, it's opaque enough to go over anything. What could you also use? You could also use gouache. You could use that bleed-proof Doc P.H. Martin's bleed-proof kind of, it's like a gouache too. And so you've got other options for what you could do with it. I just wanted to make this sort of artful, if that makes sense. And the other thing, don't forget that you can come back also with watercolor pencils, can't you? So if you want to exaggerate some of these little rock shapes, look how you can do that. I don't know if you knew you could do that.
Wow.
And then you can come back and wet some of it if you want, but you don't have to. So I might take some edges and kind of put that a little more in shadow, right? Just a little bit of that. Shade that.
So Shannon was having some trouble with the frisket you had recommended the other day. And she
Okay.
was-
What trouble? Describe the trouble, Shannon.
She says, I tried the frisket, the one you recommended, on the other day on one of Cinnamon's older tutorials, and it lifted my paper.
Your paper was wet. The frisket has to go on when the paper is completely dry, and it has to be removed when the paper is completely wet. I mean, what? Don't do that. What?
Don't do that.
Don't do that. Come back to me,
Rewind.
Shannon. All right. Dry on, dry off. That's the rule. So if you do a wash and you put on some frisket to hold some white or some wash, then you've got to have that wash be completely dry. If you want to remove it, then the paper needs to be completely dry. Dry, dry, dry. If this is the one that you got, the Incredible White Mask, if it pulls paper after that, that's an issue with the paper. Right? But it generally, almost all of your frisket problems are about the moisture, the wetness of the paper. Is it wet or is it dry? The longer you leave the frisket on, the more difficult it can be removed. But this is the only one that you can leave on for a long period of time. Thank you so much, Shelly Belly. Thank you. Thank you. I had a friend, Shelly Belly. I have a friend, Shelly Belly, and she was amazing. So talented and fantastic. My friend. Do you guys love this?
I do.
feel like it could do a signature. And since I used ink on it, and this is dry now, waterproof ink only works if the paper is dry or the ink is dry. One of those things is not true, then the waterproof ink is not waterproof. So, yeah, and if you have any problems with your masking agent past that, that particular company they have support materials, they have educational materials, they have a book, and they have a customer service staff that will answer your product questions, which is the other reason that I really like them. They're present to their product. So, like, you could have something be going on in your art studio that I cannot, like, as the great Kreskin, know is happening, even though you're describing it to me. But they only do their product. That's all they think about. They know all the different things that can be messing it up, like, that I might never have come across in all my years of painting that they can help solve too. So that's another thing. If I'm talking about a product, it's generally because there's a company behind it that will answer your questions, even if I cannot. Does that make sense? Linda's sharing stories. All right. I love that. Sharon says it was decent Fabriano paper. I think it was not dry enough. Thank you. Yeah, that's generally what it is. If the paper isn't dry, it can lift. And actually, there's a video I have where that happens to me in the live. There's one of the early watercolor lessons where I was doing a girl in the rain and I wanted to save the reflections, and I was painting it live, and I did not. I really needed to either have that frisket cured or dry it or something, and I didn't, and it pulled up my paper, and it just, we talked about it. I didn't hide it in the video, but you can see it happen to me. So it can happen. It happens to anybody. It can happen. It's a thing that can happen.
Can.
Graphics, Incredible White Mountain. Yeah, Graphics is a really cool company, and they just have so much support, and it has a lot of instruction on the bottle, but it comes with an instruction sheet that's amazing. It even gives you experimental ideas of things to do with your frisket. It lets you know where their frisket will do something that no other frisket will do. So if you've used a different masking agent and then you get this masking agent, you'll realize, oh, it's not going to be as hard on my brushes. Oh, I can use all these different dip things with it. Oh, I can use it with a dip pen. Oh, I can hair dry it. Oh, I can leave it on a little longer. But it'll tell you other things will not do this. So they're very honest about that their product, and they make a line of non-latex.
Oh.
For those of you that have any concerns about that. So it's a good company. They don't pay. I don't know anybody that works there. They don't pay me. I'm sure I have some weird art material association to them in some strange kind of a way, but mostly probably I do not.
Gotcha.
Do you guys love today's lesson? I did.
I'm
It was real
loving it.
pretty. That was nice. The Monorola that we have on Friday is going to be similar length, similar difficult, similar technique. So if you're like, yeah, this was kind of okay, I could do this kind of a landscape, come back for that. And then if you had then you'll have the acrylic lesson and a watercolor lesson. See? Woo! That was pretty cool. This would make a neat acrylic painting too, though. Wouldn't it? little
Yeah.
palette knife, a little kind of craziness. What was the thing that Sherpa was holding, the white bottle? Was it this white bottle or this white bottle? This is the Doc P.H. Martin's Bleed Proof White. It's a really good opaque kind of gouache that you can use on your paper if you need to get a really non-bleed proof white. Not for acrylic, just for watercolor. This is incredible white mask liquid frisket. You should be able to order it online and ship it anywhere. I really hope you can get it right here because it's a really amazing product. It is amazing. And they have a lot of support material. And you can do a lot of crazy techniques with it. So I do recommend it. Oh, and my moderator rainbow was all over it. Okay, first of all, everyone give a hand to the mods who, you guys don't realize this, but they volunteer to do this. If you'd like to volunteer to be a mod, write us at support@theartsherpa.com. But basically, they come in, they learn all our weird processes, they learn our links and the way we do things, and they volunteer for these shows, and they stay the whole time, and they pollinate you with art love, and let's all give them some hearts and some thumbs up and some thank you for your time, mods, because they're just like you, they're viewers like you that just help me do this show. It's like amazing. Yay, mods! Yay. Thank you for sharing links and information and helping us all not get lost in the day. Okay, well, if you haven't canceled me because of all my weird opinions, actually, I don't think my opinions are that weird. I'm going to be real honest. I don't think my opinions are that weird. I think other people are weird. I think everybody's just like a little tired and overwhelmed lately and just like, what? I think I'm actually pretty okay. Could be wrong though, so let me know if I am in the comments below. Because that comment's good for me too.
That's good.
Yeah, right?
Tell us what you think.
But yeah, we'll tell you what I think. I'm going to start telling everybody what I think.
Tell us.
I'm going to end up having 0 views. But I'm going to start telling everyone what I think. Be reasonable, be moderate. Stop going crazy.
Love one another.
Love one another. Because, like, what else are you going to do?
Paint some stuff.
Paint some stuff because it helps you get through. Yep. You know, those things. But in that, really seriously, be good to yourself. Take care of yourself. Do the things you need to do to take care of your health and well-being and your family and your life. Take care of yourself. And remember, we are not alone in this. We're in communities. We are not... Well, you know, on an Isle of the Blue Dolphins. Anybody remember that book? We're not on an Isle of the Blue Dolphins. It is not just us and some crazy octopus. So, you're going to have to, like, remember other people are here too. And we have to start thinking about not just us, but all of us in the we of it all. And I want to see you at an easel really soon. Bye-bye.